swimming in a pool, and she dove in and broke her neck. She was paralyzed from neck down. But thing is, to her, she would think, man, my life is over. What do I do? I had so much hope. And she never gave up. God was just using that to bless other people. And if you look at what she has done, she has touched millions in her ministry. People might consider that a failure. It wasn't a failure. But God had a plan for her. God had a plan for her. Now, Colossians 1:16 says, all things have been created by him and for him. Colossians 1:16 says, all things have been created by him and for him. That is God's part in our story. It is God's part in our story. The question is, what is your part? What is your part in the story? Let's look at your part. You and I are only stewards. You and I are stewards. You know, what's a steward? Or managers, right? You don't own anything. You don't own anything. If you're a manager, I mean, you're managing for the boss, right? You're managing for the boss. They tell you what you need to do. The job that I do at UCM, was a department chair for biology. As a department chair for biology, I was over the farm and everything. And they changed the title to where I have a farm manager, but the farm manager reports to me. When I started working there, the farm manager would go, because it was Mr. Managed. He sold 2 or 3 cows. And then he came to me and said, oh, I sold the cows. And I sat him down, called him in the office. I said, who told you to sell the cows? They're not yours. He's a manager. He's not supposed to make those decisions. And we cleared it up and said, if you ever do that again, you're fired. Because God can fire you. Remember what Pastor was saying? God can cut that lying to whoever is, to teach them a lesson. To teach them a lesson. But I told him, if you ever do that again, you're fired. Because as your manager, as supervisor, I make those decisions, then I tell you, you sell that one, that one, that one to generate revenue. He's a manager. He's not the owner. So you and I don't own. We are just stewards. We are managers of what God has given us. And that's why we need to learn to be how to be good managers. Now, a good manager must be must exemplify 2 things. Exemplify. A good manager must have these 2 characteristics. If you're a good manager, number 1, a good manager must be accountable, right? You agree? A good manager must be accountable. Accountability means if I give him $20, I know what he's going to use that $20 for. This is what we need to buy. This, and this. Then if $3 is the change that he's left with, he don't put it in the pocket. Kidwara will not know. But accountable means you go back and say, hey, this is what I did. Here's your money. But accountability. So as good managers, we need to be accountable. We need to be accountable. Can someone read for me Matthew 25, 14 through 29? Matthew 25, 14 through 29. Matthew 25, 14 through 29. So, good managers, since we are managers, we are only stewards, we need to be accountable. We need to be accountable. Matthew 25, 14 through 29. You found it?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
It says, again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his property with them. To one he gave 5 talents of money, to another 2 talents, and to another 1 talent, according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received the 5 talents went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 more. So also the one who had 2 talents gained 2 more. But the man who had received the 1 talent went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received the 5 talents brought another 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with the 5 talents. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The man who had 2 talents also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 talents. See, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share in your master's happiness. The man who had received the 1 talent came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your talent in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. His master replied, You wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed? Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. Take the talent from him and give it to the one who has the 10 talents. For everyone who has been given more, and for everyone who has will be given more, and he will have an abundance. Whoever does not have even what he has will be taken from him. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness where there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Wow. You think he says, he says, you wicked, lazy servant. You wicked. This guy was a businessman. And, the Bible doesn't say, did he tell them what to do with the talents? No, he did not. But these guys were being responsible stewards, good managers. The one who had 5 invested got 10. The one who had 2 invested got 4. The one who had 1 and say, hey, I was afraid of you because I know I put your money here. He said, why didn't you even put it on the account? It would have gained interest. Even if it was 20 cents or 30 cents, I would have gained. So what he says, everyone who has will be given more. Everyone who has will be given more. Do you think that's why the rich get richer? What do you think?
Nope.
Possibility is an impossibility. What do you think? The rich get richer, the poor get poorer? That's not fair, is it?
Yeah.
Huh?
Fairness is not in question.
Fairness is not in question. Yeah. Fairness is not. But if you're given, if you're good, even when you're given the 1, if you're good steward with the 1, of course you'll be rewarded. Everyone was rewarded according to how responsible they were, right? According to how responsible they were. So, if you are faithful over a little, that's what they say. If you're faithful over a little, the master, in our case, who is God, of course, will set you over much. If you're faithful over a little, the master will set you over much. And that's why, for example, if you are head nurse or whatever you do, and you're faithful in your job, you do diligently, you'll see you're going to be promoted. And those are God's blessings. It's not you doing it. It is God actually blessing you. So because you're faithful over little, I'm going to entrust you with much. That's usually what's happening. So number 1, we must be accountable. Number 2, we must be faithful. We must be faithful. This is a good manager must exemplify 2 things. Must be accountable and must be faithful. 1 Corinthians 4, 1 through 2. Verse 2 says, a steward must be trustworthy. A steward must be trustworthy. I have a friend, by the way. Have you ever tried to invest in Kenya? Everybody's from Kenya, right? From Tanzania?
Yes.
Have you ever tried to stay, let me say home. Have you ever tried to invest home and you use your siblings?
No.
They say, I see everybody shaking their head. They say, this is our money. This is our money, right? I tried that. I used my brother, and we were supposed to build something. And when I went back home, he heard I was coming.
Oh.
And he brought a pickup of sand the day I arrived. So I asked him, so where is the structure?
Yeah.
He goes, oh, I've started it. That's the sand over there. And so where's the rest of the money? We'll talk later on.
Oh.
But I have a friend. I trust. This is a guy, this is a friend I grew up with, I went to school with. In fact, this guy, if I sent him 10,000 shillings, I tell him I need this and this and this. Even if it's fit, he will not use my money to put credit in his phone to call me without asking me. That is what you call being faithful.
Right.
And somebody like that, I can tell him, hey, I'm sending you 10,000 shillings for you and your family. That's a blessing.
Yeah.
But if you're a good steward, so when you say a good manager must exemplify 2 things. He must be accountable. And this boy is accountable. My house, I built a house home. He's the one who actually managed the whole project up to where it's complete. But if I had put trust in someone else, that's what Pastor says, they'll be taking pictures of somebody else's house and sending them to me. You see? Then when I go home, where's the house? Oh, no house. We'll talk. Okay? So a good manager must exemplify 2 things. Must be accountable and must be faithful. And this guy, by the way, yes.
What was the verse for the faithfulness?
1 Corinthians 4, 1 through 2.
Thank you.
1 Corinthians chapter 4, 1 to 2. Must be faithful.
Thanks.
Must be faithful. Must be accountable, must be faithful. Okay? So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing we need to know on our journey, I'm just giving you directions, the second turn we are taking. The second thing we need to know and understand on this journey towards financial freedom is that God wants us to have financial peace. That God wants us to have financial peace. Peace is a state of tranquility. Peace is a state of tranquility. Peace is also a state of security. When you have peace in the house, I mean, it's just the kids are happy, you are happy, your wife is happy if you're married, or I mean, that's what you call peace. Everybody's happy, that's peace. And God wants us to have financial peace. Security is a term we use when it comes to finances. That even when a young lady is getting married, the parents would ask, is he going to provide security? It's technically what they're saying is, does he have money to take care of you? And parents, and when we get there as parents, of course, when a girl or a son brings somebody I want to get married, you usually ask, what do you do? What do you do? And you're referring to what? How do you generate your revenue to take care of yourself? You can take care of my daughter, or you can take care of yourselves if you're going to get married. That's security. So financial security or financial peace is what God wants us to have. It's what God wants us to have. Shalom is another term for peace. And a lot of people greet each other. Shalom is another term for peace. Now, this means God wants us to have peace on all sides, including financial peace. Now, Jesus said in John 14, chapter 27. John 14, chapter 27. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Do not let your hearts be troubled, nor let it be fearful. And you remember, if you don't have money, you're usually troubled. Right?